recorded, and Jana, you should be able to unmute there.
Yeah, I got it. Yeah, my name's Jana, and I am a person in recovery, doing this on the fly, but I'm happy to. I actually have my birthday coming up on Wednesday, so that's kind of exciting for me. Not, sobriety birthday. So, yeah, let's see. I just started scribbling down some little notes, making a little chart here, but so I grew up with alcoholics. My mother drank and used pills, as classic 70s. And I do think she had an anxiety disorder, and she was under a lot of stress. And so, but they were happy to prescribe back then. So she had a pretty good size addiction and always had something in her purse, right? Always pill bottles in the purse. And the purse was always with her. So that was just something that I grew up with. I also grew up with a brother who had schizophrenia, early onset. My sister and I started noticing it about, he was about 10, 11. And I would have been 6, 7 years old. And so a lot of just unease in the household. I learned early on how to tiptoe, how to hide, how to, not be around, and how to not cause waves, and how to people please. And I left at 16. Her then husband was also very alcoholic and abusive alcoholic. And I just didn't want to be in the wake of that. So I lived with a couple families in high school. And then my senior year, I got an apartment, and I pretty much worked full time. The book cash, cool place to work. But it made for a very long day for, a 16, 7-year-old to work full time and go to school and then get up and do it all over again. So my 20s and 30s, I was very conscientious about. I would say often, I think my sister and I both, I'm never going to be an alcoholic. I didn't not drink, but I drank very little. Like, it only happened if I was at a party, or, I never bought booze or kept it in the house, or I just, I'd say for a lot of years in my 20s, I was pretty much a teetotaler. I was just very aware of, and also still quite not even knowing the word trauma, but traumatized from the family life I grew up in, and got married at 30. And then there was booze in the house. My husband became a brewer. And so it was maybe a weekly kind of drink, not even, weekend. It still wasn't something that was happening in my life. And the trigger point for me was later in life, in my 40s. And that was after my son was born. I had a postpartum depression, breakdown. So, I was kind of set up for a lot of anxiety, panic attacks, nerves. And then my mom died when I was in my early 40s. She was only 74, and got lung cancer. And that was a trigger. That was like a triggering event for me. I went from not drinking that much to, a bottle a night. So, of wine, and passed it off for grief for about a year or so. And then had just a really embarrassing incident at a party. It was a pie contest of all things, what a place to embarrass yourself. But it got me into an AA meeting. And I would say then, now I'm probably in my maybe late 40s. And I just always wrestled there with the God piece, even though I'm a Unitarian, and it was in a Unitarian fellowship church. And there was a lot of um, latitude for thinking. I still always got that message of, you just haven't got it yet, eventually you'll get it. And, God can be anything, but you've still got to surrender, and you've all the messages that we have heard. And it just never set well with me. And it became tedious. And meetings became tedious to me. I don't know, it just started feeling like a good old boys club, and cliquey. The same people were called in the same order all the time, and they told the exact same story all the time. And it just wore on my brain. And I was seeking. I wasn't seeking. I was trying to avoid that. I was just trying to move away from it, not knowing that anything else could exist. And so I went out, I, of all things, I got breast cancer. And I thought, well, what the fuck? If I'm gonna like go out, shouldn't I go out getting to enjoy a glass of wine? Any rationalization at that point. I had, after my surgery and recovery, I had that summer, I gave myself a 2-week trip to Kauai by myself to hike and just hang out. And I drank on the plane over, and I just didn't stop while I was over there, and came back drinking. And then moving into, my son and my husband at the time were like, we don't, you sure about this? And I just said, if it really gets to be a problem, I will go back to AA. I just think I was going through depression, blah, 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 grieving my mom. And then it went into that phase of hiding. So, okay, so now I've said, if it gets bad, I'll go back. So now I need to hide how bad it is. So that's the next phase that I went into, was trying to make it look like one glass for every 4, and just doing all the little what seems like tricks and this and that. And I think my husband then just didn't care. And the marriage is not going well either through a lot of this. So there's not a lot of communication or empathy or interaction going on. So I'm hiding it to somebody who doesn't really care, mostly probably trying to hide it from my son. And that continues on. And then the marriage falls apart, and Breck leaves. I wouldn't say because of just the alcohol. There was just a lot of factors happening. And Keegan is now in senior in high school. And I went through a really depressing time with that. I shared a little bit. I think it was the women's meeting yesterday that I just had. I spent this whole summer in bed, like not being able to get out of bed. And I had friends helping me to just come over, drop a meal on the porch. Dear friend Erin across the way, just come pick me up, like a dog, like you're going around, it's time to go around the block. So she would do that for me. I really appreciated that. But I managed to get out of that. But I jumped into a relationship with an alcoholic. And that was a bit of a rebound. And I was in and out of that relationship for about 4 years. And then there was both of us hiding. He initially was sober. I didn't know he was an alcoholic. He was in a program. he was actually in wellness court. That was an option to not go to jail, was to be doing this court. And he seemed very healthy at the time. I believe he was on antabuse. There was, but then it moved into both of us drinking, and to detrimental effects, and a lot of codependency on my part. And so the way I found myself back to AA was through Al-Anon. I finally reached the point where I was brave enough to say, because there was so much manipulation going on. I really thought my job was to care for this person and to help this person, because that's what I learned. That's what I learned growing up with my mom. That was our job. My mother had twice tried to commit suicide when my sister and I, it was just my sister and I and her together, back when we were just in middle school. I was 12, Ann was 13. It was our job. Drive her to the hospital, keep her alive, get her up in the morning, stumble over the boyfriend she brought home, all of that. So I'd learned these skills that became then the skills in this really dysfunctional relationship. And but 2 weeks into Al-Anon, and I was ready for AA, because it just all came, just like one big mirror in front of me, my own behavior and what was going on with me and my level of drinking, because mine always looked like less than my partner's. But that's not saying much, because my partner was downing, I don't know, a large bottle of vodka and a case of beer every night, plus the marijuana, plus whatever else, happened, shrooms and whatnot. So I knew I didn't want to go back to traditional AA. I did. I started with that, and then I looked for other things, and I found the AA, one of the podcasts, Beyond Belief, and I heard Anna B talking, and John, I think, was on there, and that's when I started searching for alternates. And this is still pre-pandemic, just pre-pandemic, and I found you guys eventually. I don't know when I first popped into, whoever remembers when I first popped into an SRG, but I started finding other things, and it was just such a relief, an eye opener. It was like, wow, this could actually work for me. I'd stayed sober for about a year on my own with not on my own, but with traditional AA. I was fortunate to have a principal that let me go have an hour, because teachers only get a half hour at best, to a meeting every day. And that group taught me a lot of different things, and very different than the home group I had at my Unitarian fellowship. A lot more traditional, but just it was the nuts and bolts, and I filtered out the rest. But then I found, this, and it was just amazing. I couldn't find really a secular group. I don't think there is in town, or was at that time. And so then pandemic and Zoom, and now I'm finding you guys, I'm finding Recovery Dharma, Tuznua, different groups. I have the pink cloud for a bit, and then life is shitty again. You guys that know me, I had Pumpkin, and Pumpkin died of cancer, and then I had a bad accident, and this was all during the pandemic as well. But I stayed sober, through all of that, and even going through a recovery that did require some pain meds and 6 months of PT, to get back to walking without canes or without any assistance. So the tools just are more varied and more things I can access. And that's what my gratitude is that I truly feel like at this time I have a program that's can grow however I need it to grow to stay sober. And I'm also, the other piece of this is at this point, I am just me. I live alone. I'm doing this for me, not to keep the marriage, not to look good to my son, not to keep my job, because I'm retired now. This is for me. So I'm doing this for my quality of life, and the way I want to be from here on out. So and I have told myself that I know I hear different people say, if I have one more drink, that would be the end of it. I don't know if that's true for me, and I don't want to know. I just say what I say is, this is what I've chosen today. And when people ask, I chosen not to drink. I said, doesn't fit me well. And I've had some, this is a better life. This is a better life for me to be sober, to not drink alcohol, to have, really healthy people and support systems in my life. And this is, and so I'm coming up on 3, and I call it 3+3 because I had 3 years, went out for, I don't know, however long. And then, so I'm at 3, 3+3. So I hope to make it, to have that keep going each day. And I'm just very grateful for that. And that about wraps it up, Courtney. So put it out there for shares.
Thank you so much, Jana. Appreciate you sharing today, and we'll get this thing stopped here.